Hi, welcome to another video discussion in data analytics. This is Miss Rena, and today we are going to have the introduction to hypothesis testing, and also we are going to perform hypothesis testing on one sample mean. Again, you have plenty of time to read this on your own, so pakitingnan po yung target objectives and intended learning outcomes. Now, let's proceed with the learning guide questions. So I only prepared here two learning guide questions, but these two questions will be subdivided into multiple recitation items. So pakitingnan po kung ano-ano yung mga magiging sagot kasi possibly kayo yung matawag for that. So let's proceed with the introduction. Researchers are interested in answering many types of questions. So yung ibang questions, hindi siya kayang sagutin lang solely by our knowledge in descriptive statistics, like how to get the center or how to get the measure of dispersion. Minsan, kailangan natin gumamit ng inferential statistics. So we have to hypothesize and test our assumptions. These are the examples. A restaurant manager might want to know whether the revenue of his business is above or below the average, or if an online ticketing agency would like to determine if their new travel promo might potentially be a success or a fail. So these type of questions can be addressed through statistical hypothesis testing or yung tinatawag natin na inferential statistics, which is a decision-making process for evaluating claims about a population. So sa hypothesis testing, the researchers must first define the population under study. Next, state the particular hypothesis that will be investigated. We are going to practice how to create hypothesis later. So give the significance level. So in this part, we will only focus on three significance levels, 90%, 95%, and 99%, since these three are the most commonly used. Next, we are going to select a sample from the population. Marunong na kayo maghanap ng sample, right? Meron tayong non-probability and probability sampling techniques. Next, you are going to collect the data. So, marunong na rin, you know how to get primary and secondary data. So, perform the calculations required for statistical test. Dito, aside from using the formula that will be introduced later, kung magmamano-mano kayo, meron tayong z-test and t-test. You also have to get the required values before that. So, meron tayong mga kailangan na mean, standard deviation, number of samples, yung mga ganon. But if you are going to follow what I am going to show you in this video, yung paggamit ng statistical software, online statistics page siya, then you don't have to perform long computations. And finally, you are going to reach a conclusion. Actually, may kasunod pa to and if possible, you make your suggestions. Okay? Okay. Now, hypotheses concerning parameters such as means and proportions can be investigated. There are two specific statistical tests used for hypotheses concerning means. So, we have what we call the z-test and the t-test. This chapter will explain in detail the hypothesis testing procedure along with the c-test and the t-test. Now, punta na tayo dito sa discussion. A statistical hypothesis is a conjecture about a population parameter. This conjecture may or may not be true. So there are two types of statistical hypothesis for each situation. We have the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. In this module, I just used the symbols HO and HA for the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis respectively. But if you are going to refer to some other books, pwedeng ang makita nyo sa kanila H sub 0 at saka H sub 1. Sinabi ko na kaagad para hindi kayo malito. Continue tayo. The null hypothesis, symbolized by H sub O, is a statistical hypothesis that states that there is no difference between the parameter and the specific value, or that there is no difference between two parameters. So, ang sinasabi lang po ng null hypothesis, lagi siyang equal. Okay? Now, for the alternative hypothesis, depende dun sa case. Meron tayong tatlong possible na direction. So, the alternative hypothesis symbolized by H sub A is a statistical hypothesis that states the existence of a difference between parameters and a specific value, or states that there is a difference between two parameters. So, ang sinasabi lang po ni alternative hypothesis, pwedeng hindi siya equal, mas malaki siya, or mas maliit siya. So, meron tayong tatlong cases. Pwede natin gamitin yung not equal sign, yung greater than sign, at saka yung less than sign. You're going to understand it better pag nandun na tayo sa example. So, tuloy tayo. Ayan, kasunod na pala kaagad yung example. As an illustration of how hypothesis should be stated, three different situations will be used as examples. So, meron tayong isang main na case. Ayan. An international hotel chain is planning to open a new branch in Laguna. According to previous testings, their current hotel rates in other provinces were found out to have high acceptability ratings among individuals earning 20,000 pesos on average. So, mabenta siya sa mga kumikita ng 20,000 pesos. The hotel chain's market researchers would like to know whether the average salary of the target market is not equal to, greater than, or less than 20,000. So, situation number 1, paano ko ang gustong i-test ng mga researcher ay kung hindi siya equal sa 20,000. Wala siyang direction, two-tailed siya. Pwedeng mas maliit, pwedeng mas malaki. Basta not equal, acceptable yun. So, we have HO is equal, HO, the population mean is equal to 20,000 pesos. And for HA, yung alternative hypothesis, we have the population mean is not equal 20,000 pesos. So, meron tayong keyword, is not. Ayan. So, kapag ka nakita nyo is not, walang direction, walang greater than, walang less than, you just have to use the symbol not equal for the alternative hypothesis. Now, for situation number 2, very specific tayo dito. If the researcher's goal is to find out the average salary of the target population is less than 20,000. So, dito, naka-specify, dapat less than. So, may direction siya. Left-tailed siya. One-tailed, left-tailed. So, we have the population mean is equal to 20,000. Ganun pa rin for the null hypothesis. But for the alternative hypothesis, papunta na siya sa kaliwa. Less than 20,000 na. Now, for situation number 3, the other way around naman tayo, greater than. Okay? Okay. Now, let's look at the steps in hypothesis testing. Pinasimple ko na lang to, baka mai-compare nyo from the lessons that you had when you were in senior high school kasi umaabot yun ng 7 steps, 8 steps, depende din sa pinapagawa ng teacher nyo. Dito kasi, gagamit na lang tayo ng app at saka ng p-value method. So, pinaiksi ko na lang siya. There are two methods which we can perform hypothesis testing. The first is the traditional method, which makes use of the test value from the above formulas and statistical table of values for the critical region. Sorry, yung above formulas, papalitan ko na lang siya mamaya kasi nalagay ko pala siya sa baba, below. Okay, which is more complicated and exhaustive compared with the second method. And the second method is the p-value approach. This is the easier one. Since gusto natin ng madali, dito lang tayo magfo-focus. In this module, we will use the less complicated method or the p-value approach. So as I've mentioned earlier, it is only composed of 5 different steps. The first one is to state the hypothesis and identify the claim. Next, you have to compute the test value. This is optional actually, but importante pa rin na pinapakita natin si test value because there are some cases na obviously, dapat mo na siyang i-reject once you see the test value. Pero, nagre-refer ka pa rin with the p-value. And sometimes, to make sure that you are drawing the correct conclusion, pagsamahin mo itong dalawa. Okay. It's a matter of common sense lang din naman when it comes to p-value. But if you find yourself frustrated, you can check the test value as well. Step 4, make the decision and finally summarize the results. So step 1 tayo. Generally, the null and alternative hypothesis are stated together and the null hypothesis contains the equal sign. So, katulad ng mga nasa situation natin kanina, laging equal si null hypothesis, di yan nagbabago. Where K represents a specific number. And si alternative hypothesis naman, pag two-tailed, so wala siyang specific na direction, is not equal to. Pag left-tailed, papunta siya sa kaliwa, so less than. And pag right-tailed, papunta siya sa kanan, so greater than. Now, if you are given word problems, you can refer to this table of common phrases for the hypothesis testing statements. So, kapag nakita niyo yung mga word na is greater than, is above, is higher than, is longer than, is bigger than, is increased, so right-tailed yun, greater than. And also, is less than, is below, is lower than, is shorter than, is smaller than, is decreased or reduced from, less than naman yun. For equal, so is equal to, is the same as, has not changed from, is the same as, yan. Equal yon. And pagka not equal, is not equal to, is different from, has changed from, is not the same as. So these are the common phrases that you will find in word problems. O, doon na tayo sa step 2. Compute na tayo ng test values. Meron tayong panibagong gagamitin na pang-compute. Hindi ko siya makopy. Dito ko siya sa kabila i-copy. You can also, control-click na lang siya, pero iba kasi yung browser na ginagamit ko for may discussion sa inyo, kaya kailangan ko siya i-copy ng ganyan. So, punta lang kayo sa visorstats.net. This is what their webpage looks like. Ayan. Magiging focus natin today ay ito. Hopefully, you can see the red one kung saan nakaturo yung mouse ko. This is the t-test and procedures. Ayan. Dito tayo pupunta later on. Okay, balik tayo sa discussion. Now that we know how to create hypothesis, let's find out how to choose the right statistical treatment tests between the z-test and the t-test. So, ito si z-test. Ito yung formula kung magmamano-mano kayo. Ang mga required dyan ay sample mean, hypothesized population mean, yung population standard deviation, at saka yung sample size. So, the t-test is a statistical test for the mean of population. It can be used when n is greater than or equal to 30 or when the population is normally distributed and the variance is known. The standard deviation is known for the population, ha. So, sometimes, hindi natin siya magamit kasi usually hindi given ito, si population standard deviation. Kaya, medyo bihira natin siya magamit, especially on surveys na wala namang basis. Wala namang basis na nauna or wala namang naunang research. Walang sinundan na research in which makukuha na sana yung population standard deviation. So, these are the assumptions for the z-test for a mean when the variance is known. The sample is a random sample. So, hindi kayo pwedeng gumamit ng z-test if your sampling technique is non-probabilistic, yung mga may bias. Okay? Yung mga convenience sampling, quota sampling, hindi kayo pwedeng gumamit ng z-test kung ganun yung ginamit yung sampling technique. Sa t-test naman, ito yung mas madalas natin ginagamit kasi ang assumption lang dito, mamaya natin sabihin yung assumption. So, the t-test is a statistical test for the mean of a population and is used when the population is normally or approximately normally distributed and the population standard deviation is unknown. So, kahit hindi ka mag-refer sa mga previous na researches, okay lang. So, kahit wala kang given na population standard deviation from before, okay lang, pwede mong gamitin si t-test. The formula for the t-test is this one. Ayan. So, instead of using the population standard deviation, ang makikita nyo dito, yung lowercase na s, which is just the sample standard deviation. So, the degrees of freedom are df is equal to n minus 1. So, since hindi naman tayo magmamano-mano, hindi ko natuturo tong DF. So, ang DF lang naman ay useful for finding the critical value from the table, sa statistical table. Eh, hindi tayo gagamit nun kasi nga, gusto natin ng madaling process. And I think, nag-senior high naman kayo lahat. So, familiar kayo dito sa DF is equal to n minus 1. We are not going to do that again since nakakapagod siya. We're more focused on interpretation right now, not on the computation process. Okay, assumption for the t-test for a mean when the standard deviation is unknown. The sample is a random sample. So either n is greater than or equal to 30 or the population is normally distributed if n is less than 30. Okay, in this module, we will be using the t-test assuming that the population standard deviation is unknown and the population is normally distributed. So to get the result for step 2, follow the steps below. So step A, go to visorstats.net. So nagawa na natin yan kanina. In the menu, choose t-test and procedures. And then, select yung single sample t-test. Sundan na natin siya ngayon. Dito tayo sa step C, copy your data values. As an illustrative example, below is the data from BSHM and BSTM sample data sheet, health protocols, and dining patterns. Yung monthly income. Paste the values to the data entry box. Pakita ko siya step by step. Okay. Una natin gagawin daw, punta tayo sa visorstats.net. Ulitin nga natin. Ayan, visorstats.net. Ito yung magiging opening na page. Next, ito yung main menu niya ng mga choices. So, this is t-test and procedures. Click that. Next, choose single sample t-test. Since one sample mean lang yung problema natin. Makikita nyo, may box dito for data entry, may box for summary values. Dito tayo titingin sa T at saka sa P. May dalawang choices for P, one-tailed and two-tailed. Nandito rin yung mga importante na statistical descriptives niya. Meron tayong sample mean, yung hypothetical population mean natin. Ano pa bang importante dito? Standard deviation, ayan. Ayan. Kung magko-correlation analysis kayo, later on pa yon. So, meron din ng ibang mga kailangan natin na values. Yan. Okay. So, dito muna tayo sa data entry. Sabi, gamitin daw natin yung values from the monthly income. Ang isa-select nyo lang yung first observation up to the last. We have 15. Do not include the label. Okay? Okay, so copy natin siya and then i-paste natin siya dito. Paste. Yan. Makikita nyo, wala siyang mga comma. Hindi to nag-a-approve ng may comma. So, huwag kayo maglalagay ng comma, ha? Next, enter the hypothetical population mean. So, ang hypothetical population mean natin from earlier is 20,000. Diba? Dun sa situation natin. So, gamitin muna natin si 20,000. Ang hypothesized population mean natin ay 20,000 daw. Next, click calculate. Ayan. Makikita nyo dito, check nyo, n is equal to 15. Ano yung n? It is the number of samples. So, kapag alam nyo na meron kayong 15 respondents, tapos hindi siya nag-match dito, then probably meron kayong hindi na-copy na value. So, yun yung magiging hint nyo dito. Next, ang sample mean natin is 22,433.33. Baka may magtanong, ma'am, bakit pa tayo kailangan mag-t-test at saka mag-p-value method? kita na dito sa sample mean na 22,433 siya. Ang 22,000, obviously, mas malaki sa 20,000. So, pwede na po nating tanggapin yung H sub A na the population mean is greater than 20,000. No, that's not right. Sorry. Hindi po tayo nagbe-base lang basta-basta sa sample mean. Meron tayong mga level of significance na sinusunod. Pwedeng ito ay almost the same lang as this one. Kasi nga, di ba, dispersed naman yung data. Meron tayong, asan ba yan? Standard deviation of 7,374. So, possibly, hindi siya pare-parehas na 22,433. May mga samples na mas mababa sa 22,000, may mga samples na mas mataas sa 22,000. Nung ipinol mo lang yung data using the center, naging 22,000 siya. So, yung behavior nung sample mo could be the same as the whole population din. Meron ka lang mga hindi na isama na tao, kaya siya medyo napunta sa mas mataas. To make it simple, hindi natin to pwedeng pagbasihan solely when we are making inferences. We have to look at the t value and the p value. Okay? Okay. Punta tayo sa susunod. Ayan, step 3, find the p-value. Ayan. For step 3, we will be focusing on the p-value. There are two p-value options, one-tailed and two-tailed. Choose according to the context of your problem. So, the p-value or probability value is the probability of getting a sample statistic, such as the mean, or a more extreme sample statistic in the direction of the alternative hypothesis when the null hypothesis is true. Okay, it is important to note that the direction of the tail before making conclusions regarding the p-value on one-tailed tests. Most of the cases can be solved through common sense. Ayan. So, may common sense naman kayo. So, magigets nyo yan. Magbibigay din tayo ng mga example mamaya para hindi kayo nalilito. Okay? And step 4, you have to make the decision. So, ang decision rule lang po natin, if p-value is less than or greater than the alpha, reject the null hypothesis. If the p-value is greater than the alpha, do not reject the null hypothesis. Ayan, may alpha na naman na na-introduce. Ano ang alpha? So, kung nag-aral kayo ng maigi, ng statistics and probability nyo, you should be familiar with the level of significance and alpha na. So, the decision rule in hypothesis testing is to reject the null hypothesis if the p-value is less than the alpha. The alpha in symbol is this one. Ayan, yung parang A. It is equal to 1 minus the decimal form of the level of significance. That is, alpha is equal to 1 minus level of significance. Ang mga commonly used alphas po natin ay 0.1 or 0.10, 0.05 at saka 0.01 which corresponds to 90%. Ano ang decimal form ng 90%? It is 0.90. 1 minus 0.90 is 0.10. Okay? Next, 0.95. Ang decimal form ng 95%. So, 1 minus 0.95 is 0.05. Next, we have 99%. 99% in decimal form is 0.99. So, 1 minus 0.99 is 0.01. So, these are the commonly used alphas. Next, we have to summarize the results. Ay, teka, baka pala may magtanong, ma'am, bakit iba-iba pa sila? So, meron po kasi silang meaning, hindi ko na lang siya inilagay dito since ako naman yung magsaset ng level of significance sa mga problems niyo. But, i-discuss ko na rin siya ng mabilisan. So, ito po, itong 90% na level of significance, halimbawa, pumasok siya dito, nireject mo si null hypothesis at 90% level of significance. It is still prone to error. So, pwede ka pa rin mag-commit ng error in your hypothesis. Ito, si 95, this is somehow safe na to bet na maliit na yung chances niya for error in rejecting the null hypothesis. And finally, si 99%, highly significant to. So, sure na sure ka dito na tama yung magiging assumption mo. Okay? Okay, so these two are just significant, but 90% should be tested for errors pa rin. And then 99% is highly significant. Ito na yung halos makakasigurado ka na parehas ng behavior ng sample mo, yung buong population. Dito sa 95%, merong little room for error, pero acceptable na. Ito kailangan pa i-test. So, ang pinakang safe dyan, itong dalawa, syempre. Pero ito kasi mahirap tong makuha. Mahirap mag-reject ng null hypothesis at 99%. So, dito, pwede na tayo mag-settle at 95% level of significance. Okay. Step 5 tayo, summarize the results. In this part, you will be stating the results of the hypothesis testing together with the analysis of the problem scenario and, if possible, suggested actions. Lagi tayo ng example. We will be using the BSHM and BSTM sample data sheet, health protocols and dining patterns. Again, for the examples, we will focus on the variable monthly income. So, example number 1, parehas lang po natin ng tanong from the previous scenario nung nag-introduce ako ng paggagawa ng hypothesis. So, an international hotel chain is planning to open a new branch in Laguna. According to previous testings, their current hotel rates in other provinces were found out to have high acceptability ratings among individuals earning 20,000 on average. So, the hotel chain's market researchers would like to know whether the average salary of the target market is different from 20,000. You have to perform hypothesis testing at 95% level of significance. So, isa-isahin natin yung mga steps. Unang step, state the hypothesis and identify the claim. So, dito, kung nasa research na siya, dapat isinusulat nyo rin siya in sentence form. So, H of O, the population mean is equal to 20,000. Or in sentence form, the average salary of the population in Laguna is 20,000 pesos. And for the alternative hypothesis, ito siya in symbol, ito siya in sentence form. The average salary of the population in Laguna is not 20,000. Next, for step 3, compute the test value. The statistical test is t-test. The test value is 1.2779. Ma'am, saan po ito nanggaling? Natatandaan niyo, nag-compute tayo kanina sa Visor Stats. Ayan. So, dito, yung data entry, ayan, may 15 tayo na data galing dito. 30,000, 23,000, 20,000. Ipinis lang natin siya dito. Tapos, yung hypothetical population, minsan yan makukuha, itong 20,000. Di ba nag-create na kayo ng hypothesis? So, kung ano yung laman niya dito, yung K, yun yung hypothesized mean, or yun yung hypothetical average, hypothetical mean. Ito po yun. Dito galing si 20,000, okay? Okay. Next, CT. Ito. Saan yan titingnan pagka nakapag-calculate na kayo? Ayan. So, nandito po siya. T is equal to 12779. Okay? Okay. So, next. Ano nga pala ibig sabihin, ma'am? Ano ibig sabihin nung T na 1.2779? So, ito ay ginagamit natin for manual or traditional method, yung tumitingin kayo sa table. Pero, may bearing din yung sign niya or yung symbol nung value. So, kapag ito ay positive, ibig sabihin, mas malaki yung computed sample mean kesa sa hypothesized population mean. So, i-compare natin ha. Ito yung sample mean, 22,433. Ito yung hypothetical population mean, 20,000. So, kapag ka po ang sample mean mo ay mas malaki sa hypothetical population mean, ibig sabihin, ang makukuha mong t-test dyan ay positive. And, hindi ka na dapat magte-test ng null hypothesis that it is less than a certain value. Kasi kapag ka ang lumabas sa p-value niyan ay less than 0.05 or less than 0.010, less than 0.01, yung i-reject mo yung null hypothesis, hindi pa rin siya acceptable since the t-value in the first place is negative. Okay? So, kapag ka po negative ang t-value, tapos magte-test ka ng right-tailed, hindi mo tatanggapin yung significance niya. Okay? Pwede mo na siya i-reject agad-agad. Next, find the p-value. The p-value, we have the two-tailed. Sabi ko nga pala kanina, a matter of common sense lang yun ha. So, kapag ka nakita mo na ang p-value mo ay positive, ibig sabihin, mas malaki na si sample mean kaysa kay population mean, huwag ka na mag-test ng left-tailed test. So, kasi medyo unlikely na yun na matanggap yung significance even though the p-value is less than the alpha. Okay, so step 3, we have find the p-value. The p-value, this is two-tailed. So, ang magiging basis natin, meron tayong dalawa dito, 0.111034 and 0.222068. Ang pagtitingnan po natin ay ito, si two-tailed. So, 0.222068. Okay? Okay. And then, finally, make the decision. So, since the p-value is greater than the alpha, that is 0.222068 is greater than 0.05, we fail to reject HO. So, hindi po natin pwede i-reject si HO. So, ang magiging summary of the result natin ay at 95% level of significance, there is sufficient evidence to conclude that the average monthly income of the working population in Laguna is 20%. Ito yung nakuha natin from our p-value method. Pero hence, ito na yung sarili nyong analysis. Hence, it is probable that the new hotel branch in Laguna will get the same acceptability rating among the target market as the other provinces. I-recall natin yung problem ha. Di ba ang problem natin? Acceptable daw ang ang current hotel rates nila among individuals earning 20,000 on average. Ang nakita natin, on average, totoo to, the average salary of the population in Laguna is 20,000. So, yung mga tao sa Laguna, probably, i-accept din nila or magiging maganda rin yung pagtanggap nila sa current hotel rates ng hotel chain na bubuksan sa kanila. Probably, magkaroon sila ng mga patrons doon or mga customers doon kasi nga gusto nila yung hotel rates or mabenta sa kanila yung hotel rates. May market sila sa Laguna kasi kaparehas lang ng population mean as the other provinces. Okay? Okay. So, ito po ay sarili nyo ng analysis ha. Ito lang solely yung galing sa hypothesis testing, the first part. So, you have to take note of the problem. Okay, this time, meron tayong dalawa pang example. So, in the next two examples, we will be revising example number 1. This is a little bit more complicated since we will be illustrating examples that concern only one tail. Pero, madali pa rin naman since kung naka-traditional method kayo, mararamdaman nyo na mas maraming trabaho talaga yung gagawin when you are testing for hypothesis na one-tailed lang. But dito, if we are testing hypothesis na tawag mo dito, na one-tail using the p-value method, madali lang siya. So, don't worry. Okay, so dito tayo, example 2, basahin natin siya. A restaurant owner plans to add an affordable set menu to cater to more social classes. So, according to an online article, a set menu worth 500 pesos appeals to individuals earning less than 27,000 a month. He hired a team of researchers to find out if the average salary of the potential customers around his restaurant location is less than 20,000 pesos a month, and if his plan is profitable. Perform hypothesis testing at 95% level of significance. So here, we have to state the null hypothesis and identify the claim ulit. The average salary of the population in Laguna is 20,000. So, hindi nagbabago ang null hypothesis natin. But when it comes to the alternative hypothesis, instead of using not equal, we are now going to use the less than symbol. Since meron tayo ditong problem na is less than. Okay? Okay. So, the average salary of the population in Laguna is less than 20,000 pesos. Now, gawin ulit natin siya step by step kahit na medyo nakakaumay. I-refresh ko lang ito. So, step 1, go to t-test and procedures. Choose single sample t-test. Next, go to your data sheet. Copy the monthly income. Paste it under the data entry box. And then, enter the hypothetical population mean. According to our problem, tinetest natin kung less than siya sa 27,000. Next, calculate. Check natin, 15. Yes, nakopy lahat. Sample mean is 22,000. It is significantly lower than 27,000. So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. So, kung nag-significant siya dito sa less than 27,000, kasi significant siya, ito, one-tailed, di ba? So, the t-test value is negative 2.3982. Kung nag-test ka ng greater than 27,000, you will still get the same one-tailed p-value. But, you have to reject it. Why? Because the direction of your t-value is negative, is pointing to the left. So, kapag ka po, nag-test ka dito ng statistical claim, nag-test ka dito ng alternative hypothesis na the population mean is greater than 27,000 pesos, makukuha mo pa rin ito, itong value na to, but even though it is statistically significant doon sa table of values, kailangan mo pa rin siyang i-nullify. Kailangan mo pa rin tanggapin si null hypothesis. Hindi mo pwede i-reject si null hypothesis kasi pointing on the other direction si t-value. Okay? Okay. So, sabi ko nga, it's a matter of common sense lang. So, ibig sabihin ng p-value na negative dito, it is pointing to the left. So, magiging true lang yung p-value mo if the alternative hypothesis is also pointing to the left. Okay? Okay. Ay, teka, iba to. Ito pala. Yan. Ito. So, pointing to the left siya and negative din si test value. Ayan. So, magkapareho sila ng direction. Next, you have to find the p-value. According to our table earlier, it is 0.015488. Yung mga hindi po makakasabay agad-agad at hindi makakapag-practice, yung computation nito, ipipaste ko nga pala dito sa last 2 pages. Ayan. So, pwede nyo siyang tingnan later on. Okay? The hypothesized mean of 27,000 pesos ay nandito. Yan, dito nyo makikita yung, ayan, yung one-tailed test value. Balik tayo doon. Saan na tayo? Ito. Yan. So, since the p-value is less than the alpha, that is 0.015488 is less than 0.05, you have to reject the null hypothesis. So, kung rejected na ito, hindi na siya valid, ang tatanggapin natin ay itong pangalawa. Okay? So, at a 95% level of significance, there is sufficient evidence to conclude that the average monthly income of the working population in Laguna is less than 27,000 pesos. Hence, the restaurant owner's plan of adding a set menu worth 500 pesos could be profitable. Take note, I am using the words could be, might, yung mga ganun. Kasi this is all about probability. May room pa rin tayo for uncertainty. Hindi tayo 100% sure. Ito nga, 95% level of significance lang, di ba? So, ang mga assumptions natin, hindi siya 100%. Hindi siya dapat tunog 100%. Okay? Okay. Now, for example number 3, the other side naman to, it is greater than naman, 18,000. Sorry hindi ko na binabasa ng buo. Sige, basahin na nga rin natin kahit medyo Nakakaumay na siya. After a month, a restaurant owner plans to add another affordable set menu. According to another online article, a set menu worth 1,000 pesos appeals to individuals earning more than 18,000 a month. Again, he hired a team of researchers to find out if the average salary of the potential customers around his restaurant location is more than 18,000 a month and if his plan is profitable. Perform hypothesis testing at 90% level of significance. Ayan, mababa na ha, 90%. Ito ay prone pa sa error. So, paano mo to ma-fix? Sabi, ma'am, di ba prone to error to? Ba't natin to ginagamit? Since we are using the p-value method, we can also check this significance sa 95% at saka sa 99%. Kasi ito lang naman yung i-check natin, yung p-value later on. So, step 1 muna tayo. State the hypothesis and identify the claim. So, the average salary of the population in Laguna is 18,000. The average salary of the population in Laguna is greater than 18,000. Yan yung mga sentence form natin. Take note, ang symbol po natin ay pointing to the right na. Next, step 3, compute the test value. The statistical test is t-test. The test value is 2.3282. Now, you have to find the p-value. It is 0.0177015. Gamitin lang natin yung nakaraan natin na value. So, kung meron ka ng page na ganyan, pwedeng ito na lang yung palitan mo. 18,000 na lang yung ilagay mo sa hypothetical population. Ito po ha. Yan. So, instead of 27,000, palitan mo lang siya ng 18,000. And then, just calculate. Ang magpapalit lang po dyan ng value ay itong si T. Ayan. Positive na siya, 2.3282. At saka yung one-tailed, two-tailed test. Yan lang yung mga magpapalit. Ito, mula dito sa sample mean pataas, hindi yan mag-iiba. Okay, so ano po yung ibig sabihin ng T? So, significant lang siya. Pwede mo lang siyang tanggapin. Pwede mo lang tanggapin si p-value if the tail is pointing to the right. So, kapag ka po yung inequality mo dito ay pointing to the right din since you have a positive value for t-test. So, acceptable lang to for greater than. Okay? Since the test value is also positive. So, we have step 4, make the decision. Since the p-value is less than the alpha, that is 0.0177015. Pwede naman pong i-round, i-round off nyo yan. Pwedeng 0.02 na lang. Okay lang din yun. Reject HO. Next, you have to summarize the results. At 90% level of significance, there is sufficient evidence to conclude that the average monthly income of the working population in Laguna is more than 18,000. And hence, the restaurant owner's plan of adding a set menu worth 1,000 pesos could be profitable. Okay. I am not sure if kasi yung iba 1 hour lang sa inyo. So, tutuloy ko na ha. The engaging activity, this is 5 points each. Please click the link below to answer the engaging activity. Meron po tayong form dito. So, copy ko lang siya. Pakita ko sa inyo kung ano yung tsura ng form ha. Copy natin siya. And then, yan, paste. Ito po yung sasagutan nyo. So, you have to include your email. So, for example, renasimat@gmail.com. Last name, Edlagan, Rena. Course and section, for example, ano ko? BSHM 3A. Next. Hindi kayo makakalampas hanggat hindi nyo sinasagutan parehas. 5 points each to, dalawa lang na items. Yan. I-analyze nyo lang kung two-tailed, kung yung mga magiging alternative hypothesis nyo ay two-tailed, one-tailed right, or one-tailed left. Greater than or less than. Okay? Okay. So, next, dun tayo sa performance task. Ito medyo mahirap-hirap ng konti compared with this one. Kasi dito focus lang kayo kung ano yung gagawin sa alternative hypothesis eh. Kung sa hypothesis testing ba ay one-tailed or two-tailed. Dito, mag-aano na kayo, mag-actual input of data na kayo. So read the problem carefully, perform the steps in hypothesis testing, and include a screenshot of the output from vasorstats.net. Use the sample data for health protocols and dining patterns. So dito, an international hotel chain is planning to open a new branch in Laguna. According to previous testings, their current hotel rates in other provinces were found out to have high acceptability ratings among individuals spending over 15,000 pesos. The hotel chain's market researcher would like to know whether the average monthly expenditure of the target market is greater than 15,000. Perform hypothesis testing at 95% level of significance. Baka naman po may magkamali pa. Ang sinabi na po ay monthly expenditure, so hindi nyo po gagamitin itong monthly income. Ang ipipaste nyo po ay ito, monthly expenditure. Ito po ang ikakopy nyo, okay? Okay, I hope I was able to make everything clear. This is the end of our discussion for today. And I'll see you next meeting. Bye-bye!